James and John were disciples of Jesus. They were counted among the 12, and they were two of the 3 of the 12 that Jesus often chose as witnesses for something special, like the resurrection of Jairus' daughter and the transfiguration of Jesus. Peter was the 3rd. Jesus himself called them Boanerges, which means sons of thunder, because even though they didn't talk as much as Peter, they were just as impetuous. James was the first of the 12 to be martyred for the faith, and John was likely the last of the disciples to die after writing a gospel, at least 3 letters, and the apocalypse of Jesus Christ that we call the book of Revelation. And James and John were both sons of Zebedee. Zebedee was a fisherman. Because he had other hired help besides his sons, it is assumed that Zebedee was a rather wealthy fisherman. Fishing is a hard job if you're thinking of the occupation rather than the leisure activity, but it is a job that can bring in plenty of money because it's hard and people are willing to pay for someone to have done it for them. Zebedee maybe even had connections with the high priest that enabled either James or John to get Peter into the high priest's courtyard to deny knowing Jesus 3 times while he was on trial. And it's probably also Zebedee's wealth that enabled Salome, his wife, and James and John's mother to travel with Jesus as well as her sons, and to be among the women who attended him and to witness the crucifixion and prepare Jesus' body for burial and wonder where it had gone 3 days later. But it doesn't seem like Zebedee participated in any of that. It seems that Zebedee stayed behind with the nets and the hired men throughout the whole of the 3 years of Jesus' ministry. It seems like Zebedee was not a witness to anything, no one's resurrection or transfiguration or crucifixion. It seems Zebedee wasn't impetuous at all, but stayed behind with the responsibility of continuing to earn the wealth on which his family depended. He seems to have missed out. Which, of course, leaves us with the temptation to criticize Zebedee, doesn't it? Shouldn't he have dropped everything to follow Jesus the way his sons and wife did? We're tempted to see Zebedee's seeming absence from the action of the Gospels as representative of the absence of faith from Zebedee's heart. What could have been more important to him than being around the Messiah if he was a true believer? We're tempted also to draw a parallel between their following Jesus and our church attendance. If work prevents you from being in worship, you either need to have a conversation with your boss about your hours, or you have to have a conversation with your boss about you finding a different job. And the real temptation that we are struggling with is the temptation to commit the sin, because sin is what it is, of judging certain activities as holy and others as not. It certainly was a holy calling to follow Jesus as a disciple. It sure seems a holy calling to have cared for his earthly needs as he traveled and when he died. And it is also a holy calling to do the job you already have and fulfill the responsibilities that are yours, and to enable others to follow their callings with the proceeds of your own. Instead of giving in to temptation, let's paint a different picture of Zebedee. One in which he encouraged his boys to follow Jesus, saying he could just hire more help, and in which he happily gave money to his wife so that she could go too and look after them and their teacher, and in which he missed them as he sat alone in the synagogue every Saturday that they were gone, but that missing them encouraged him to listen all the more intently to the word he knew they were hearing in a new way, and to pray all the more fervently for them to the God from whom they were hearing that word directly. A picture in which Zebedee was proud of his family following their callings, as he humbly followed his own. And all of them were blessed in their callings, each in their own way, and also all of them in the same way, blessed to know that what they each did, they could do by faith in the Son of God who had called them to be saved. And then go ahead and paint a similar picture of yourself, in which you do what you are called to do, in which you are who you are called to be, in which you see what God can do with dust and breath and faith in Jesus, his Son. You and I are dust and breath, loved by God, bought by Jesus. Season 2 of the podcast is coming to an end. In a few weeks, I'll reach the nice round number of 75. And anyway, with a break coming up, I was hoping you could do something for me. You can share an episode on social media and use the hashtag #IamDustAndBreath or tag Dust and Breath on Twitter or Facebook. I'd love to see some Dust and Breath inspired art. If that's a thing that you do, tag me on the medias or send me an email with it at dustandbreathpod@gmail.com. Or rate and review wherever it is that you do that. I usually see those too. Reach out somehow. It's one of my favorite parts of doing this. Oh yeah, and outro music arranged and performed by Mr. Peter Shawi, who is like the sun, like the light of 7 full days. You'll hear more from me next week. In the meanwhile, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Take care.